We stayed in Lavender Town for a few days after laying BazzB to rest in Pokémon Tower, and before leaving, Mr. Fuji gave me a Poké Flute. I didn't know how to play it, but I accepted it anyways. I also helped the Psychics in Pokémon Tower deal with the rogue ghost Pokémon who were possessing them, which resulted in Perona evolving into Haunter. I also found out that Team Rocket had taken over Silph in Saffron City, so I got to work training up my Pokémon in order to take them on. While training, Sasuke evolved into a majestic Persian with a purple gem on his forehead, and Taishiro evolved into an even chubbier Dragonair. Just for the record, I'm not fat-shaming him, he's just built to be cuddlier. When we got to Saffron, the guard outside of Silph was sound asleep, so we got in without resorting to having Perona possess anybody. And so I entered with Perona, Victor, Drayden, Sasuke, Hikaru, and Taishiro. Just like in the Game Corner hideout, there were a bunch of unimpressive grunts who didn't really challenge us, but we were definitely on high alert after losing BazzB. Thankfully the elevators did work, but there were a lot of locked doors and these transporter steps that connected to different floors, and while accidentally stepping on one of them, I ended up finding the card key that someone had dropped, which made navigating the place a lot easier. Victor was especially motivated to put an end to Team Rocket, and he actually evolved into a Venusaur as we were battling our way up the floors. And he did it just in time too, because I misstepped on another one of those transporter steps and found myself in the same room as Gary. Apparently he followed me there just so we could battle, and while it may have seemed like a bad time and place, battling against Gary would actually be a great way to figure out if I was really ready to challenge Giovanni. Gary led with his now fully evolved Pidgeot, and I led with Hikaru, who easily landed a rock slide. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for the KO, but it did cause Pidgeot to flinch, and Hikaru was able to finish it off with a slash. Next, Gary sent out Execute, so I switched over to Sasuke, who's too limber to get paralyzed by Stun Spore. Unfortunately though, he is not immune to Sleep Powder, but fortunately he didn't take too long of a catnap and used Bite against the Execute to take it out. Next came Alakazam, and the idea was to use Bite to knock it out, but it set up a Future Sight attack, and since Sasuke had already taken one hit too many while he was asleep, I switched over to Taishiro. Alakazam had just enough time to set up another Future Sight attack before Taishiro knocked him out with a Dragon Rage. Fourth was Gary's Gyarados, who was a lot more in control than the last time we battled. Of course, I didn't know that at the time and sent out Drayden right away. I tried confusing it with Water Pulse, but was unsuccessful, and then Drayden was hit by the Future Sight attack, which I actually forgot about because I panicked over seeing Gary's Gyarados, and ended up taking way more damage than I was expecting. And so I sent out Victor. He did take a Dragon Rage, but he then put Gyarados into a very deep sleep, and Giga drained his health back while knocking out the now docile Water Dragon. Finally, Gary sent out his Charizard, and I had to switch, but Drayden wasn't strong enough to handle being switched in, so I needed a plan B. As I was struggling to figure out what my next move would be, Victor turned to give me a look to say that he could handle it. And so he stayed in, as Charizard went for Flamethrower. The flames were intense and I had to look away, and when I finally managed to look back, I saw that Victor was still on his feet and successfully hit Charizard with a Sleep Powder. With Charizard asleep, I was able to safely bring out Hikaru, who knocked out Gary's fire-breathing dragon with a single rock slide. After our battle, Gary said that he knew I was going after the head of Team Rocket and told me not to be too reckless, and then left because, let's be real, he's better making good life decisions. Seriously, what am I doing here? Why am I going after this organization all by myself? Anyways, I was way too pumped up on adrenaline to question my life choices at the time, and after healing up my Pokemon from our battle with Gary, I noticed a man in the room who had been watching me. He insisted that I take a Pokemon from him, a Lapras. He said that she'd been raised in the lab and was trying to get away from Team Rocket so that she could live a free life, and felt that I might be the right person to take her, so I accepted her and named her Shirahoshi. Okay, we are breaking character for a quick second here because I need to explain something. I messed up when I was recording this gameplay because I somehow named this Lapras Shirayuki instead of Shirahoshi, even though I was dead set on naming her Shirahoshi. At the time of me doing the voiceover for this episode, I do not remember if I actually went to the name changer to get her name corrected, So there is a chance that for the rest of this playthrough, when I use the Lapras, her name is going to say Shirayuki. And just in case you're wondering, the reason why this is such a big deal that I had to mention it is because the name Shirahoshi fits this Lapras so well. If you watch One Piece, you know, you understand. We're not going to get into that, but yeah, I'm going to be calling the Lapras Shirahoshi because that is her name, and for some reason Past Me accidentally named her Shirayuki. Very upset with Past Me, but anyways, let us get back into the story. I finally found my way to Giovanni, who was already expecting me, and Victor, Hikaru and we were ready to put an end to his little organization. Giovanni led with Nidorino, and I led with Victor, who instantly put Nidorino to sleep so I could switch over to Hikaru. The Nidorino did wake up right away, but Hikaru was able to knock it out with a single dig. Unfortunately, he also got poisoned by it, and to make things worse, Giovanni sent out his Kangaskhan next. A slash and a dig were all Hikaru was able to do before the poison became too much for him, and so I switched over to Sasuke, who might seem like a strange choice here, but Sasuke is particularly charismatic and has the odd ability to charm other Pokemon into not actually attacking him. He chipped away at Kangaskhan a little, and then I switched back to Victor, who tanked a Mega Punch and then took out our opponent with a critical hit Vine Whip. Next was Rhyhorn, who went down easily to a single Vine Whip, and then came Giovanni's final Pokemon, a Nidoqueen. I switched over to Drayden, who took a Body Slam, hit a Water Pulse, and then took a particularly nasty Body Slam which left him a bit paralyzed. I switched over to Perona, who Nidoqueen couldn't really hit. It did take a couple sneaky attacks, but finally Nidoqueen fell, and we had won. Unfortunately, Giovanni still wouldn't put an end to Team Rocket, and once again, the lights went out and he vanished. Seriously, who's controlling the lights here? The president of Silph Co. offered me something to thank me for saving his company, a new Pokeball he was working on called the Master Ball. He said that it would catch any Pokemon without fail, and I had a feeling that he was actually designing it for Team Rocket. Even though I accepted it, I had no intention of using it because it just seemed wrong to force a Pokemon into a Pokeball without it having any choice in the matter. When I left Silph Co., I found that Team Rocket had left Saffron City and the residents had started returning. As I was walking around, a man called me into his house from the window and gave me the TM for the move Psychic. At that point, I had gotten so used to odd encounters in my journey that I didn't even question it. But hey, Team Rocket was gone and the city was saved, which meant for the time being I could get back to my mission of becoming champion of the Kanto region.